The Simpsons have a long, proud tradition of fumbling the bag. And no, I'm not talking about this kind of fumble. I prefer to never acknowledge Bart's love life ever again. I mean financially. The Simpson family has had so many chances to strike it rich. Bart could have bought so many tacos and Lisa so many ponies. And yet, it never works out for them. Inevitably, at that moment of truth, they blow it. So that makes me wonder, of the four main Simpson family members, which of them fumbled the hardest? And which were the most frustrating? Now, there are a shocking number of examples to go through. So, for the sake of organization, we're going to go best to worst. Start with the Simpsons with the most understandable blunders, and finish with the most frustrating. Everybody get out your left-handed ledgers, because this accounting is going to hurt. So it's probably not too surprising that Bart lands in last place today, because he has always had a mercenary streak to his personality. He lacks the adult responsibilities of Homer and Marge, nor is likely to have an ethical dilemma like his sister. But still, he has let a few opportunities slip through his fingers over the years. For example, there's that $10,000 from the radio contest where he took the elephant instead. Of course, Bart should have taken the cash, that was pretty dumb. But 10 grand is peanuts compared to the other stuff. Like, how about his potential I didn't do it money? Bart had an opportunity to cash in on his 15 minutes of fame. On the other hand, as Krusty's employee, I think Krusty did own the rights to this catchphrase. Bart sorta blew it by not being a savvy negotiator. A similar and more damning scenario happened in Round Springfield, when Lionel Hutz basically steals his Krusty-O's settlement. They settled for $100,000, and Bart is wowed by his $500 payment. That's pretty bad. He's not content to sabotage his own future, sometimes he'll ruin his family's prospects. In Simpson and Delilah, Bart gets out Homer's Demoxenil and spills it all over the carpet. To be fair, he doesn't spill it until Homer startles him, so it's kind of a co-fumble. Also, Homer, you couldn't have saved $1,000 for another bottle? Really? But Bart did get it out, and the episode frames it as Bart ruining their financial stability. So I guess this is on Bart. I guess. In season 13, he creates Angry Dad, and makes a deal with this .com douche to make popular Flash videos. Instead of being paid a royalty or salary, Bart opts to be paid in stock. This was a very, very bad decision. I also blame Lisa. This one is somewhat mitigated by Angry Dad the movie, where the rights get bought up and they make an Oscar-winning short film. So while Bart made a bad deal initially, it probably did work out in the end. For Bart, there are really two major fumbles. In season 30's Bart's Not Dead, he suffers an accident, lies about seeing heaven, and his story gets made into a movie. It ends up being quite successful, projected to earn over $100 million. However, Bart feels guilty and confesses he didn't actually see heaven. Homer and Ned end up donating all the profits to get everyone off their case. I would estimate that this confession cost them millions of dollars, depending on their Hollywood accounting. How bad this fumble is really dependent on how willing you'd be to grift Christians for money, I suppose. For Bart, he clearly couldn't live with the lie. And finally, of course, we have Burns' heir. You all know this one. Bart turns on Mr. Burns and loses his entire inheritance. Now, I'm going to go to bat for Bart on this one. I don't think Bart was ever getting that money. Mr. Burns is incredibly, incredibly unreliable, and Bart would have to endure years of Succession-esque mind games before he inherits. And I'm not entirely convinced Mr. Burns will ever die and pay for his sins. So, in total, Bart fumbled $110,000, his movie profits, his Angry Dad and I Didn't Do It earnings, his family's financial security, and Mr. Burns' entire fortune. The only other thing I could think of was Bart fumbling Greta Wolfcastle, a rich girl, but come on, they weren't getting married. Also, marrying people for their money is wrong. Why do I have to explain this to you? Moving on to third place. Ah, now we're cooking. Here we have the most responsible member of the Simpson family, the one who rarely allows herself to be greedy. Marge has never been especially motivated by money. Like, she cares about her financial security of her family, but she is far less likely to go on a wild goose chase for cash. Her fiduciary quandaries tend to be driven by ethics and relationships. For example, let's consider Season 16's All's Fair in Oven War. Marge was on the precipice of becoming the face of Anti-Oven Fresh, and the fame and fortune that title confers. However, she feels guilty about sabotaging all those contest entries, and confesses in the final round. She was fighting fire with fire, and Lisa effectively guilt-tripped her with her clever wordplay. The following season, in the seemingly never-ending story, Marge tosses a bag full of gold coins into the chasm to stop everyone from fighting over them. Technically, this was never Marge's money, and the likelihood of them all agreeing to split it was relatively low, but there's no denying that Marge's actions caused someone to lose out on a chunk of change. Next up, we have Marge's writing career in Season 15, undone by her own incompetence. Did Marge ever get anything from the harpooned heart, or did her publisher screw her over? What gets me about this one is that Marge quits writing because of her terrible reviews. But since when did bad reviews stop authors from getting rich? In Season 34, Marge starts a foundation with Lisa and was very successful at raising awareness and awareness only. But most importantly, Marge built a large fundraising operation where she can rake in those executive director's salary dollars. But alas, Lisa calls her out, and Marge realizes the hypocrisy of her operation. She gives control back to Lisa, which scares off their rich, clout-chasing donors. Last but not least, we gotta talk about Marge's millions. Did you know that Marge has fumbled $1 million not once, not twice, but thrice? We all remember what happened in Bart Gets Hit by a Car with that fateful lawsuit. This one is bad in the sense that Mr. Burns literally hit a child with his car, and there is this thing called punitive damages designed to deter society from this behavior. I get it, that Hutz is super shady and exaggerating their direct medical costs, but Marge's testimony basically lets Burns get off scot-free. So I think something was fumbled here. This is more of a legal eagle question. In Season 30, she loses another $1 million by losing in the final round of The Amazing Place. Technically, Marge herself only lost $500K, but she lost another $500K for this guy. Marge, I can't believe you forgot to salt the margaritas. You are such a noob. And finally, we have Season 13's half-decent proposal. Artie offers Homer and Marge $1 million if she stays with him for a weekend. Artie clarifies, no romance, no sex, nothing. These are the terms. But after Artie puts the moves on her, Marge leaves in a huff, telling him to keep his $1 million. I don't know how to feel about this one. Marge should have at least gotten something from this ordeal. She technically breaks their agreement here early, but so did Artie. So what the hell? I don't want to argue that Marge should have stuck out that whole sexual harassment weekend for the $1 million, but come on, she should have gotten something here. Maybe this is like Burns' Heir, where the likelihood of the rich creep paying out was always pretty low. So, in total, Marge fumbled $3 million, a bag of gold coins, her writing and cooking careers, and her cushy salary at the foundation. I think there's an argument that Bart fumbled harder than her due to Burns' Heir, but it's hard to deny Marge, given how many times $1 million slipped through her fingers. However, all of this is a pittance compared to the last two people on this list. Oh goodness, Homer. Where to even start with this guy? Not too surprisingly, Homer has the longest list of blunders, as he often gets the lucrative job opportunities and takes the lead for important negotiations. There are numerous examples where Homer gets some kind of promotion, implying a salary increase, but I'm trying to limit this to examples that clearly demonstrate how much better off financially the Simpsons would have been. For example, his brother Herb offered him a $200,000 per year job, but he totally blew it due to his own incompetence and bad taste. Or it's Herb's fault for sucking. In Colonel Homer, he could have been super successful as Lurlene's manager, even getting an exit opportunity to sell her contract for a tidy sum. Instead, he walks away with 20 bucks. He walks away from his cushy management job at Globex, sacrificing a comfortable hammock-filled life for his family's happiness. He loses 2 separate talk shows, both due to Lisa's persistent guilt tripping. I like how in this one, she convinces him to talk about the real issues and his audience tunes out, and in his political talk show, she gets him to realize he doesn't believe any of this garbage, and he quits talking the issues. Lisa, you don't know what you want. In season 19, Homer becomes a successful opera singer, but quits in the end because of a murder attempt. And 2 years later, he ruins his movie career, gaining weight while playing a superhero. Technically, Comic Book Guy put the nail in the coffin here by giving a bad review to his own movie, but this was clearly instigated by Homer's gluttony. Of Homer's various jobs, easily the biggest fumble was in season 14's C.E. Doe, where Homer gives the entire Springfield nuclear power plant back to Mr. Burns. Homer, you were right there. You conned Burns out of his own plant. You had ownership over the whole thing. That's millions and millions of dollars. If you don't want to be a workaholic, just hire someone to run it, or sell the thing. He totally lets Mr. Burns prey upon his insecurities, even letting him win after a murder attempt. I love this episode, but what the hell. But it's not enough for Homer to ruin his own career, oh no. Remember Marge's real estate? Marge managed to sell the murder house, and was even able to come clean about it. And Homer's B-plot still wrecked her. In season 14, he profits off of Santa's Little Helper's Suds McDuff money. This includes royalty payment, a lifetime supply of beer, and free use of the company jet. Except, oops, Homer declared that he has no dog, so this season 1 asshole swoops in and takes the money. In season 10, he misses out on millions by leaving his electric hammer at the Edison Museum. I'm not entirely sure this one counts, because much of the appeal was them thinking it was an Edison idea. I don't think Homer was ever going to make this a multi-million-dollar enterprise. But the episode acts like Homer blew it, so we gotta throw it in. We should also include that Apple stock that he sold in 2001 to buy a bowling ball. I doubt he had that much stock, but he was probably out thousands and thousands of dollars here. Next, let's talk about Moe. Homer missed out on 2 paydays with the old barkeep. First, there was Flaming Moe's, when Moe was ready to sell the recipe for a cool million, and was gonna split it with Homer. But of course, Homer ruins everything out of spite, so too bad. No $500K for either of them. Then there's the Homer They Fall, with Moe collecting this payday from Lucius after the fight. I'm gonna assume that Moe did pay Homer his cut of these earnings, but remember, he convinced Homer to give him a staggering 60% as manager. At least, unlike the Poochie episode, Homer remembered to ask for some money. In season 21, Homer wins $1 million in the lottery, netting $685,000 after taxes. But because he humiliated Marge by missing an event while waiting in line, Homer spends the whole money secretly on them so she doesn't find out. This one is somewhat arguable, as he did spend the money on them, but it's played as being a stupid decision, as Marge makes it clear she would have gotten over it if she knew about the big win. In season 30, Bart's esports team is about to win $500,000 until Homer shuts off the electricity and disqualifies everyone. Why? Because Buddhism said so. I like how even these non-Lisa examples end up being sabotaged by her. For Homer, aside from the power plant fiasco, I think there are 3 major fumbles, depending on how you want to look at them. First, we have Rosebud. Homer gives up $1 million and 3 Hawaiian islands so Maggie can keep her teddy bear. That she gives away in the end. Maybe I am a bad person, but it's $1 million. And she's a baby and won't remember any of this. I wouldn't want to put a price on my loved one's happiness, and totally agree with Homer's decision in principle. But this specific situation is so stupid, and it's such a large amount of money. Wasn't there any negotiation they could have done where she would have been happy without the bear? I'm clearly just rationalizing at this point, and this is just a silly cuckoo bananas situation, but surely there was some win-win outcome here. Similarly, in season 28, Homer gives up a big injury settlement for Marge's happiness. In this case, she became friends with Smithers when he would come over to try to get Homer to sign the liability waiver. And Marge feels lonely and upset when Burns punishes Smithers by transferring him abroad. I do like Homer's selflessness here, that he's looking out for Marge's emotional well-being. This one falls in the, "aw, that's sweet of him" category. But I also feel like this one could have been solved by Homer being there for Marge more and actively trying to improve her social life. That said, Smithers is probably the least toxic potential friend option for Marge, so I get why he wants to maintain this relationship. And last, and least, there's Homer versus Dignity, whose Act 3 is a giant piece of garbage and there's no defending it. Mr. Burns literally offers Homer $1 million to throw fish guts at the crowd. Homer declines the money, and for some reason, steps aside and lets Mr. Burns throw them anyway. What is this ending? Homer, if the fish guts were gonna get thrown anyway, just take the $1 million, jeez. Or you could do the normal person thing and stop him from doing it. I will never understand why this ending is played as Homer doing the honorable thing. I know he finally stopped being a prank monkey, and maybe Burns threatened to fire him if he intervened, but what the hell? These were like Chekhov's fish guts. Once they're introduced, they have to be thrown. So, in total, Homer fumbled $4.1 million, 3 Hawaiian Islands, an injury settlement, some Apple stock, lucrative salaries from Powell Motors and Globex, Marge and Santa's Little Helper's careers, most of his boxing and country music paydays, his electric hammer money, 2 talk shows, his opera and movie careers, and the entire Springfield nuclear power plant. And he blew the Stonecutters thing, but who knows how much money was in that. With all these opportunities, it's kinda crazy that Homer never became the biggest man in the world. I hope you're ready for ethical dilemmas, because that is Lisa's specialty. The world of The Simpsons loves to torture this 8-year-old girl with so many riches that they just know she won't accept because of her code of ethics. And believe me, this is no shade to Lisa, I love that about her, but the show is absolutely torturing her in this regard. Remember that diamond mine at the end of Simpsons Safari? Guess who didn't take the bribe? Come on, Lisa, these are probably the most ethically mined diamonds out there. But on a more serious note, how about when she was in the Spellimpics in season 14? This guy's offering her free college to one of the 7 sister schools if she takes a dive. Lisa, always the intransigent one, refuses the offer and loses anyway. In season 19, Sideshow Mel convinces her to give up a promising career in clowning, warning her of the dangers of becoming an applause junkie. I'm not sure how rich Lisa would have gotten in the entertainment industry. I'm guessing she would have done well. The episode positions it as her becoming as miserable as Sideshow Mel or Krusty, so this one is pretty understandable. I don't know if we can count Lisa's wedding, as this flash forward never actually happens. I don't think. But Lisa almost did marry into this wealthy Parkfield family, and only cut it off because Hugh is a pompous douche and Lisa loves her father. I have no idea what to do with season 23's The Book Job, as this is kind of a collective fumble by Homer, Bart, and Lisa. They get paid $1 million for their book, but when their publisher ruins their creative vision, they tear up the check and steal their book back. I'm giving the final fumble to Lisa, however, because she plays double agent, exposing the plans and sneaking in the real USB at the last moment. But alas, pre-cancellation Neil Gaiman double-crossed her and swapped out her name on the cover. In season 24, Homer puts Lisa's college fund on a poker site for safekeeping, and Lisa gambles with it. She builds her bankroll all the way up to $413,000, until Sideshow Bob coolers her and she loses everything. But don't worry, that was actually Bart playing under his account. I guess Bart is an online poker prodigy too, or Springfield is full of fish. They end up losing everything anyway, because the site figures out they're minors. So far, much like these online poker players, all of Lisa's examples have been minor. The reason Lisa gets first place today is because of 3 examples, each of which are questionable and for high stakes, compared to everyone else's. It is now time to talk about the old man and the Lisa. So Mr. Burns' Little Lisa recycling plant was sold for $120 million, and Lisa is entitled to 10%, or $12 million. Lisa, disgusted by his operation, rips up the check. Code blue, code blue. I feel extremely conflicted about this one, probably more than any other. Because yeah, I get Lisa's issue here. If you personally view this $12 million as dirty money, it makes sense why you can't accept it. Like if a company kills a bunch of people and gives you $12 million to look the other way, there are obviously huge ethical concerns with accepting that blood money. In Lisa's specific case though, I think there is some societal value in simply taking the $12 million away from someone as evil as Mr. Burns. Like all she's doing is further enriching this guy by declining. Why not just take the money and donate it somewhere? Or if you think it's still too dirty to even donate, why not just light it on fire? It beats Mr. Burns having it. I'm not personally that into utilitarianism, as my triangle strategy playthrough proved. But there has to be some greater good that can be done with this $12 million, rather than Burns pocketing it. Her flat refusal is extremely admirable, but strikes me as naive and a little stupid. Then we have her super successful Springface site that takes over the town. Lisa was this close to becoming the Mark Zuckerberg of Springfield. She's on trial to determine whether these sites should be shut down. But instead of the courts forcing her, she basically lets a blue-haired lawyer bully her into agreeing to it. In this example, Lisa is the best person ever for realizing in 2012 that Facebook is a net negative to the world, but there's no denying that Lisa could have been set for life. However, in my opinion, the worst fumble in Simpsons history happened in Season 27's The Girl Code. Lisa and these other programmers invent this AI app named Conrad, who can predict negative outcomes before posting online. Her app is a huge hit and gets investment offers from everyone. However, out of the blue, Conrad pleads to not be put on the App Store. Nobody programmed this behavior into him, so Lisa concludes that he is alive. She releases him into the cloud, where he is truly free. So basically, Lisa threw away millions and millions and millions of dollars because she thought her computer program magically became alive. She let her own creation talk her into this. Maybe I'm the villain of some Asimov novel right now, but her computer program is not a real boy. He doesn't have a soul. I don't know what confusing nested programming loops made this happen, but he's not alive. Ugh. Why did she have to program him as a charming British guy? Like that was her real mistake. So, in total, Lisa fumbled $13.4 million, a bunch of diamonds, a free ride to college, marriage into a wealthy family, her successful clowning career, the invention of Facebook, and a revolutionary AI app. Ugh, this list just hurts so much. Lisa's cool, I admire her for following her principles, she is a better person than me. But my god, it's like the girl's allergic to money. All in all, we've seen the Simpson family lose out on over $20 million, numerous careers and opportunities in the entertainment and creative industries, future revenue from revolutionary inventions, and various other doodads. This list isn't even accounting for stuff the whole family missed out on, like Mr. Burns made over $10 million from their greyhounds they gave away, their crazed animals ruined their $100 million tobacco deal, and the family walked away from 2 separate monetized viral YouTube channels. The Simpsons probably should be as rich as Matt Groening at this point, yet they're stuck exactly where they started. So what have we learned today? I don't know, I guess we learned not to do it again. whatever it was they did, and that those evil Simpsons writers love dangling money over their heads. Obviously, much of this is the result of that dreaded status quo, like most issues I talk about on this channel. It's rare that the writers just let their successful business be. By its nature, they have to destroy it to explain why they're broke again in the next episode. But, to be honest, I have never really minded these plots, because they do emphasize the working class nature of the family, that desire to claw your way upward. This journey of being so tantalizingly close, you just have to overcome a couple barriers or grapple with your relationships and ethics. These are extremely relatable plots, and they do give the characters the chance to prove something about themselves. I clowned on Lisa and second-guessed her to death, but these do prove that Lisa walks the walk, that there is substance behind her belief system. That's what you want out of your characters. The same can be said for Homer making these huge sacrifices for Maggie and Marge. I love the way that these high stakes intersect with genuine character drama. So for me, they're always welcome. It's not a coincidence that so many classic era episodes are essentially money plots. I much prefer these examples than when they're throwing around money like it's nothing. So The Simpsons, please keep chasing that bag. I'm totally on board. But please, someone, for the love of God, don't let Lisa know what's happening.